Okay, so it's corporate culture. It's Mike Gorenstein. Mike, thanks for your time as always.
Thanks for having me.
So we've got a little bit of a mini series here, all with the title Growth Mode. And over these next three, we're going to talk about HQ, we're going to talk about home turf and away turf, the home game and the away game. But first, it's setting up that HQ for growth mode. This came out of our conversation during the digital workshop, where you said it really doesn't matter what the greater economy is doing. It doesn't matter what the cannabis economy is doing. We always have to be in growth mode. So, HQ, what have you set up? Which gives you the opportunity now as we look down, the last breaths of 2019 and into 2020. What is growth mode at HQ?
Yeah, so a lot of what it is it's infrastructure. Whether it's home turf, whether it's away, what I think you have to do is start setting up the real infrastructure that lets you grow at an accelerated pace. So getting from $0 to $10 million, the infrastructure you need is very, very different than getting from 10 million to $1 billion in revenue. The manufacturing processes, how much automation you have, because you at a certain point can't keep scaling just using things that are manual. You need to be able to have certain tracking systems. So a lot of work in information and data and internal communication is really important. Having a tier 1 ERP, MRP, so that as we set up all these operations and as the business gets more and more complex, we have systems that can feed back the data so we can make the right decisions and we can make sure things are tracking and delivered as they need to be.
Do you care to share, and the answer of course can be no, what the ERP or MRP is that you're using?
I don't think we'll share it yet, but it's not that, it's not exactly proprietary. It's one of the largest providers. So you're really picking among, a few tier 1 ERP MRPs if you want to have a truly global system. It's not really a cannabis specific one. It's just how do you then adapt that ERP MRP to cannabis, because every industry is different, and this is obviously something that hasn't been done.
Half the question was that. So you did answer it at least in part, and I appreciate that. As far as setting up talent for growth mode, you mentioned kind of going that initial run and then the phase 2 run. How does that change the way that you look at the people?
Yeah, I think a lot of it early on, and really it's the same core team, but when you start thinking about what a director is or what a VP is, a lot of it is having people that are able to dig in the weeds, roll up their sleeves, and do everything on their own. I think in the first leg of the race. And as you scale, you start thinking about, well, it's a skill set of how do I manage people that are in the weeds? Because you need to have things start laddering up so that you can make sure that decisions and accountability, that you create a scalable HQ. So it's a slightly different, it's almost manager versus doer is something you start thinking about as you build out departments.
How do you then retain that kind of culture of innovation and that creativity within the culture that we've talked about in the past?
Yeah, I think that culture comes, it doesn't change when you have managers. It's just now within, say within a segment, within vaporizers, everyone is still extremely innovative, but what things change are you almost have specializations in the company where innovation in say vaporizers was innovation in edibles versus pre-rolls. You have different people focused on different things, but you no longer have every single person in the company coming up with ideas for other parts of the company. It's really like putting multiple companies within one. And I think that's the way that you can still feel small and nimble. And there's infrastructure that each of those groups can leverage. So the supply chain, for example, you would use a similar supply chain for whether it's edibles, vaporizers, beverages, topicals, any of these, derivative extracts. And having that supply chain actually frees up people within each of those divisions to essentially innovate, think of ideas, think about what to do with that. So you take away issues that people had to spend time on otherwise, and you start specializing more. So the marketing people and innovation teams can think more about what to do with the brand and less about how do I get the things I need to be able to just get my base product out.
Now that we are, because you mentioned vaping a couple of times, so almost a side project here is the fact that folks are now starting to point their fingers at cannabis. So there's a vaping headline of, here's what happened with the vapes, and then kind of the head of an association pointed his finger at cannabis. Just, because why not? I'll point it at cannabis. It's definitely their fault. It's not our fault. What do you start to do with with that, the fact that we've been building what we've been building here in cannabis? We've been, following a rule set which is unparalleled in any other industry, and now we're going to get some finger pointing, even in a way that that is unnecessary. How do you deal with that from your side?
I don't know that it's unnecessary. Actually, I think it might be necessary. And while you'd say that it's an unparalleled rule set, it actually is. There is a parallel rule set that you can follow, and I'd say we've been following and prepping for it, and we have a whole team, Kronos Device Labs in Israel that it's essentially Altria Israel for 6 years prior to this. Under Altria has been working on safety, working on the formulations, understanding exactly the quality control of the devices, supply chain. So the things and the changes that we've been making, that we've been working on, are in anticipation that this would eventually happen. So that when someone says some of these cannabis devices are not safe, it's a pretty ridiculous answer to say just because it has cannabis in it, the device is safe. You can't actually know that. And usually it's not true, but we can say, we know that this device is safe. And so you have to start separating of anything that's cannabis versus this is a legal, regulated, certified, safe product. We have a whole team, and we have all this data we've generated to show you what we've done. And so I think we've talked about what Device Labs does, and if you listen to the earnings calls, we've been really clear that there's a lot of work we're doing on safety before the next gen devices come, just getting existing devices cleaned up and safe. And it's to address those particular risks. Because if you aren't doing that, there's things with leaching, there are issues with what materials are being vaped, and it's important to separate and show. And this is really what legalization, I think, is about, is can you provide a product that's safe? That should always be number one.
And so there you go. You've got your safe product, and we'll take that, and we'll make sure to do the due diligence to ensure that it is safe, as you say it is, and that's exactly what. Please make sure you think it's safe, just like we know it's safe. That type of thing. It's a necessary question, as you say. Perfect. All right. So that is HQ. That is growth mode. Is there any piece, within HQ that I missed? We've talked about people, process, technology. Anything else?
Yeah, I think technology, there's really two things technology goes to. I think it's for new products, and that's one piece, and then it's for optimizing how those products are made. So I think technology goes into two different areas, and when we think about what we develop at HQ, it's really the product set, the whole portfolio, that can then go to all the different markets. And making sure that we're doing that and making sure we're developing things for the future and then adapting to any local regulations is really the priority for anything the product set. So people, processes, products.
There we go. Mike Gorenstein, thank you as always. Very much appreciate your time. Can't wait for the next one.
Thank you.